Every time you cook a meal, you're following a recipe of some sort, whether it's from a book, a YouTube video, or even just some loose framework in your head. But a recipe is just a guide. It doesn't account for the context of your situation or the minute-to-minute decision making. So here are some things to think about as you cook dinner. Number 1, what is it that you're trying to achieve? This depends on the meal, but it could be something like a perfectly cooked whole roasted chicken. Number 2, what is your context? Maybe the recipe calls for trussing the chicken, but you're going to spatchcock it. And number 3, how do you achieve the result you want? This comes down to planning, technique, and experience. I'm doing a lot of cooking out of this cookbook, Good Things. I dog-eared almost every single chicken recipe. My goal was to work a few of them into the dinner rotation. At home, I try to do my chicken cookery using whole chickens, so there will be a bit of everything, starting with the whole chicken and working my way down to parts. Here's how the cooking breaks down for 5 chicken dinners. Up first, a whole chicken. I'll be following Samin's recipe for jujay kebab chicken, but there are like a million things to think about when you're roasting a chicken, which lands me at number 1. What exactly am I trying to achieve? So here are some goals to key in on. Golden skin, tender meat, and a full balanced meal for family dinner. The second part is, what is my context? Beyond the chicken, I need to come up with other components for a meal. Necessary things like sides, but I'm also keen on adding an extra component to make dinner better. And between my fridge and pantry, there are ingredients that I should probably use. Now it's about getting the gears spinning so that I can put dinner together. Adding dips and sides that make a meal better sometimes require planning and prep. Straining yogurt for a sauce and quick pickling some onions are 2 great additions to the meal. For the roast chicken itself, there are a lot of things to think about. Spatchcock it so that it cooks more evenly, salting or marinating in advance to retain moisture, monitoring the temperature of the bird so that it doesn't overcook, roasting at a high temperature so that skin browns at roughly the same rate the interior cooks through, monitoring the color of the skin and the temperature of the meat and making adjustments if necessary, accounting for carryover heat after the chicken comes out of the oven. While the chicken cooks, I grab some veg out of the fridge, an herb from the garden, and throw together a hopefully bright cucumber salad, waiting to salt it until I'm ready to serve, or it'll weep a big puddle at the bottom of the bowl. There's bread that should be eaten, but it's also a little sad, so to revive it, I give it some oil and salt and throw it on the grill while the chicken rests. Grilled bread almost always goes well with dinner. When you're cooking, things move quickly and get messy, but with some luck, I end up with a well-cooked chicken and a balanced whole meal that serves well for family dinner. This jujay kebab roast chicken recipe is an easy keeper, and the saffron yogurt marinade tastes great while also producing a stunner of a golden bird. Serving a half chicken is a little less common, but it makes for a wicked presentation. Grilling a single unit of meat with multiple cuts attached is tricky, so it's extra important to be thinking about what your dinner goals are. Here, it's all about the grilled bird. We want fully cooked, tender meat, a bit of a char on the skin, and a pretty sauced bird, as well as side dishes to complete the meal. What's the context? For me, I'll be standing at the grill watching the chicken closely, so I won't really have much active time for sides. With the goals clear, context accounted for, and recipe in hand, all that's left is to think through the execution. The first thing to think about is I need some hands-off sides. Portuguese-style potatoes can sit in the oven nearly unattended. A very simple leafy green salad and dressing. Both of these sides can be prepped while the charcoal is heating up and finished while the chicken is resting. For the chicken, salt and marinate the bird in advance. Bring it to room temp so the interior cooks through a bit quicker. Monitor the temp by feel and with a thermometer. Use indirect heat to cook the meat through and use direct heat to char and finish the skin, and brush sauce on at the end to finish. This recipe produces a really good sauce. On my end, the chicken could have been cooked a little bit better with a little more color on the skin, but I was still happy with how this turned out thanks to identifying my goals and planning accordingly. The next meal is a golden chicken soup. Again, I have the framework of the recipe, but here's what I'm going for. A simple soup with a clear broth and clean flavor and tender cooked meat. The recipe calls for a whole chicken, which I do not have, but when breaking down chickens, I like to group and portion multiples of a single cut to freeze away for dinner. So I'll be working with a few breasts and tenderloins, which are very lean and prone to drying out. To make sure that doesn't happen, I'm thinking about technique. Salt the chicken boobs in advance to retain moisture, gently cook the breasts by poaching them, monitor temperature as they cook, and remove them right before they're done to keep moist. Add the meat back with the heat off, right before the soup is ready to serve. For a clear and light broth, skip browning the chicken bones. Don't let it boil too hard, and skim to keep it clear. For clean flavors, keeping the broth clear helps. I find that long cook times on vegetables and aromatics just obliterate their flavor in the long run. With that in mind, I'll gently simmer vegetables at the end to retain a bit of a snappy texture and to keep the flavors fresh. This soup turned out decent, but not amazing. I found that a lot of the spices added to the broth didn't really come through in the soup. I should acknowledge that the more you alter a recipe, the more your results may vary from the original, and I will say that the cardamom ghee that garnishes the soup is pretty damn unreal. When reheating soup with chicken in it, aim for somewhere between 150 and 160 Fahrenheit, which will keep from rubberizing your chicken and is also an ideal eating temperature. The chicken thigh cutlet recipe from the book really caught my eye, so that's the framework with this one. Chicken thighs are the jewel of the chicken, so the goal here is pretty simple. Well-seasoned and tender meat, a crispy golden crust, and keep the meal simple to highlight the cutlet. Boneless, skinless thighs are ideal, but sometimes all you have are bone-in, skin-on thighs, which admittedly are a pain. And fried chicken is the tits, but sometimes you kind of also need a vegetable. For perfectly cooked chicken thighs, deskin and debone the thigh, flatten the thigh to cook through evenly, salt in advance and pound the salt into the meat to season throughout and retain moisture. Preheat oil thoroughly for sustained, steady heat. Give it time for the dark meat full of connective tissue to fully cook through. For a super golden crust, maintain a steady medium heat. Don't rush the browning and don't futz with the thigh. You can provide a little movement with the oil to encourage even browning and discourage dark spots. To highlight the cutlet, salt it right when it comes out of the oil. Keep the rest of the meal simple. I took mine in a Japanese direction with some white rice, shaved cabbage, a slice of lemon, and a basic tonkatsu sauce. Man, this recipe is insanely good. Probably the best chicken cutlet I've ever had. I'm not 100% sure why, but it might be attributed to the potato starch coating or this Italian branded panko that I stumbled across, which I probably will experiment with more. Either way, this cutlet was, good. I'll bang out this last one in a way that can be replicated for any meal. So you have the recipe, chicken braised with apricots and harissa. The goals, tender chicken, brown skin, a balanced, thick, buttery sauce, and a full composed meal. My context, I don't have chicken thighs, but I do have legs and wings left over from my chicken breakdown. And then how to think about achieving the goals. For the chicken, this is getting repetitive, but salt in advance. Use the wet heat of a braise for moisture. Give the chicken time to cook and break down, and crank the heat at the end to brown the skin. For the sauce, remove the chicken to finish the sauce. Adjust the consistency with water to thin or reduce to thicken. Taste for salt, balance with acid. And for a fully composed meal, use what you have to create side dishes. Here I went with quinoa and add components to elevate the meal, like a simple salted yogurt and a green sauce. This is just one more example of a meal that turned out far better than what I imagined. A quick shout out to this green sauce, which is a fantastic pairing for the meal alongside some seasoned yogurt. A definite strong recommend here. So, 1. What are you trying to achieve? 2. What is your context? And 3. How do you achieve your goals with technique, planning, and a bit of attention? Recipes are great guidelines. Some are better than others, and I want to point out that Samin's recipes, as seen in this video, are very good ones. But even then, only you can account for your context and experience.